All right.
I got all the info pulled up.
Oh, this is easy for me.
Okay.
This is gonna be 5 out of 5 headshots for me.
Okay, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Frank,
I'm Cody.
and today we're going to be reviewing and going over a book called Zombie Fallout.
And this is by Mark Tufo, narrated by Sean Rurnett, who I have a very soft spot in my heart for this narrator. He is one of my absolute favorites. I love the way he can capture that sense of like somber humor that these characters usually have.
Now, my first experience with the author is when we did
Breeds. Yes.
No, not Breeds.
Oh.
Werewolf, what is it? The Fallout.
Oh, yeah. Lichen Fallout.
Lichen Fallout.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that whole aspect of it and how the character was kind of an asshole, but a good guy. Or kind of a bad guy, however you want to do it. But
kind of an anti-hero.
I really liked it. I enjoyed the way that he doesn't take anything seriously sometimes, but he does. Reminds me a lot of myself. I constantly get that. Don't you take anything seriously? But I really fell in love the way that he did it. And in that book, there were a lot of things that I'm like, okay, they're referencing. It's a standalone book, but they're referencing what happened to him in this book, which is another 3-part series, right?
Yes. It's actually, it got another one, and that has another sequel series called Demon Fallout, which I do want to check out.
Oh, that'd be kind of interesting.
I found out about this from Lichen Fallout, which I found because I listened to Breeds, because I was looking for a good werewolf book. I like the narrator so much, I clicked him instead of the author, and I was like, what else has he narrated? Oh, Lichen Fallout, that's what I'm looking for, stuff with werewolves. Found out about him through that, so I found about this because I like the narrator.
Yeah.
So, and you like the author, which I do like the author.
And the narrator too.
Yeah, I like the author. The narrator sticks out. That's how I found out about it.
Yeah,
was
and
the narrator.
And the narrator. And like for me, you guys, already know. I mean, dude, I'm a huge zombie fan. So, infected, real zombie, slow zombie, fast zombie. Yeah.
I'm not a zombie fan, and I love the idea of of a story taking place after a zombie apocalypse. I thought that was such an interesting concept of like that already happened, and now there's and it was so interesting going through this because it's like I know where things are going to happen.
Yes.
I don't quite remember some of these characters, so like what exactly happened, because they don't even go that into it because it's been so long.
Yeah, and it's kind of a trip because listening to, of course, Lichen Fallout, I'm kind of at a disadvantage going back, not in a bad way, but you go back and then you're like, oh my goodness, that's this or that's that, and I enjoy that either way.
I thought I knew what one character was, and this is a good example. If the story's into it, you can kind of forget your like understanding of how stories are supposed to go, because I was like, no, that character has to be this character from it, and by the end I was like, I don't know who this guy is anymore.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like,
but that guy is involved somehow.
Yes, I'm like, no, I'm like, he has to be relevant because I remember these things being said.
Gotta be.
But it's already like I'm already like I don't know anymore. I don't know. Even though I know the ending, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it was really good. And so we're gonna go ahead and start with Zombie Fallout. So it takes place with this character, Mr. T.
Yes.
Right?
Michael Talbot.
And Michael Talbot is this ex-military guy that kind of had to resign or not resign, and he's been in Iraq and Afghanistan and all that stuff. Very authoritative problems.
Yeah,
he has problems with authority.
And a little thing I liked is he has a noticeably different personality in Zombie Fallout than he did in Lichen Fallout.
Yes,
because that's him after a lot of stuff has happened.
Correct.
And I was just fully expecting him to talk and act the same way because he annoyed me in Like and Follow It with how many references and jokes he would make.
But wasn't that brilliant?
And now I'm like, I get it more. And now I'm like, if I re-listen to Like and Follow, that won't bug me because now I get that like he like that. Yeah, like he got to that point because of these things.
Yeah, and so he's very nostalgic kind of guy. You know, is what he is, and you know, loves his wife, his kids.
And that's what I knew about him. And when you were shown it, it's like, you know, it's not like that movie romance that happens before the tragedy hits where they were like, I love you so dearly, sweetheart. And she's laying in bed and she's like, oh,
yeah.
They have like their like scuffles and stuff.
Oh yeah. It's as close to a real relationship as you can get.
It felt real. There were ups and downs.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, you know, it's like, I know he misses her.
Right.
And it's definitely through the, but it's like I don't believe they ever like, you know, and some of the stuff that like they said to each other.
Oh yeah, and then
I was like, oh wow.
But the correct answer is yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it was so it starts off. What I like about it is it starts off pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're given like this little background. I'm like, okay, we get like a build up to. It's like, honey.
Yeah. Yeah, just out of nowhere.
Someone's licking the mail slot, which is the physical item of a mail slot.
Right, yeah, the actual peephole.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I could totally picture that. I don't know why a zombie would do that, but it kind of makes sense later on.
And I was about to mime the action, but I stopped myself.
Because that would have been a meme.
That would have been a
meme.
I would have legitimately blurred that out if I accidentally did that.
The pixels.
Yeah.
That would have been funny though. But so the wife's like, hey, there's some dude out there and they're really afraid. And he looks out the peephole and there's, you know, someone licking the peephole. Now, he doesn't really know that there's
Honey,
zombies.
Someone's licking our peephole?
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't even know his peephole is being licked. That's the thing that's crazy.
And that's the worst.
That's the worst. He has no idea that his peephole is being licked and being violated. How do you not know your peephole is being violated? That's what I don't understand.
That's what a note to start on.
Yeah, and to have kids around. What the hell? Anyway, so you know, it starts off pretty quickly, and you know. It's funny because he references other zombies and, you know, movies and things.
And that's something I like. I do not like in zombie storylines where they act like they created the concept of zombies.
Correct.
They'll be like, oh, it's the scrawlers. And they, you know, they
right.
like, it's like, no, that's a zombie. We've seen these movies. Like,
yeah.
I like it when it's like, yes, this is a thing that we have seen. And, you know, it's different though than that. But we're going to call them zombies.
Yeah. And in a lot of, zombie, you know, audiobooks that I've been listening to,
which you have gone down a zombie rabbit hole. I can track your progress, and this is one of my favorite things about sharing an Audible account. I can see you going through like, oh, he has listened to 7 zombie books.
Oh, dude! Right when you downloaded Zombie Fallout, I downloaded the other 2, and I'm like, it's. The majority of the people that have been writing for the last, you know, 7 years or whatever, take that culture into play. So it's not like the books that I've read or heard. It's a mystical thing. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like the movie. Oh my gosh. So a lot of the writers are referencing that.
Oh, okay.
You still have some of the abilities where they don't really understand it. Like there's a guy from, I think, South America that writes one that's called, I think it's called something Z.
World War Z?
No. Oh. But it's a Spanish writer, and they read it, and it's great. It's great. It's one of, I'll definitely say we need to read it at some point. But you know, you go on YouTube and look at videos and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, it's a lot better now. It's not like, why is this happening?
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
That's about when I checked out of zombie storylines, was when I saw like 3 things in a row be like, and that's The Walking Dead. I've seen like a couple of clips from it. I'm like, yeah, this isn't for me. Yeah, the rules of this don't really make sense to me.
Oh, well, even what's the other one that came out after that? It was Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead.
Fear the Walking Dead.
You know, you have a mom that is all tripped out about killing a zombie, but I can kill the principal. Well, that.
Yeah, I started warming up to the idea of zombies after Dying Light 2 because it really sparked this thing in my head. And now so I finished that game and I started listening to this. I'm more into this now because there is a potential in storylines for like the idea of like at what point do you stop being a human and you become a monster that someone's going to kill while laughing, being like, I love zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this to happen.
But in this book, they really kind of threw a little twist in there.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. So.
And just like I like the idea of like how do we like the way this story handled it. It was like you woke up one day and it's happening. It's already happening.
Yeah.
And it happened quickly. And I think that is a very movie friendly.
Definitely.
Beginning. I always imagine how are they going to pull this off visually?
Yeah.
And that's a perfect setup, which was like is also that was the issue I had in Walking Dead was, I feel like a lot of stories can't really justify the zombies taking over, so they do a time skip.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks later, and trust us, they were able to do it.
Yeah.
And I like it being like everyone was caught off guard. And it sort of just happened overnight.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean,
but they show it didn't just happen. They show it happening.
And I mean, this is in this book, it travels pretty fastly, and it's not most of the stuff that you're hearing is it's almost like he's starting like in Fallout, where he's writing a journal. Yeah, he's like a people, but he's doing like a journal. So he writes a journal, and it goes into kind of why he writes the journal a little bit. And a lot of books I find, especially zombie books, I have no idea. It's like they'll start this whole journey process through a journal, and then you kind of forget it's a journal, and they're just like reading it. And then every once in a while they go like, oh, it's September 47. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that bugs me a little bit. And in this, they do that a little bit. I heard another book review person just tear this book up, like brutally. Yeah. And it was like almost like it was a real thing.
How so? Because I don't know what that means.
Meaning the fact that he's like, the author really doesn't build the characters well. And there's a part where they're at a Walmart, which we'll get to, and they have this ladder because they're trying to get their son off the roof, right? And the guy says, yeah, of course, there's big rigs. Why can't they just jump on the big rigs? It was just unrealistic that they would do that.
What?
Right. He was like comparing it to like real of like if he was there, why didn't the writer, it was just lazy. The rider could have got down safely by jumping on the back of a big rig and then jumping down.
What did they mention? There was a big rig nearby.
Well, he's just assuming that it's Walmart.
Oh, so at Walmart there's usually big rigs. I mean, I don't see.
I mean, I get it because I do the same thing sometimes.
That I feel like that's a bit much. In this there wasn't. When there's a
right,
there wasn't
and there's a whole reason behind it if you really look at why the writer did it. I mean, so now let's go back a little bit.
Yeah, that's just
we'll get there. So we go back a little bit. So the zombies are on his house, and he's trying to actually kind of fortify his house a little bit. Well, he needs to go pick up. They really go into how much he loves his kids and his wife,
and that's where like them like it not being that fake lovey dovey all the time.
Right.
That song.
Lovey-dovey all the time.
Some people, Space Cowboy. Some people call me Morty.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a good enough thing to have to explain. It was bad.
Yeah.
Well, don't.
I don't. Yeah.
But I do think that aided this feeling of it being real because he's like,
yes.
Yeah, my son. That he's like the screw up and.
Yeah.
He's made a lot of mistakes, but the whole thing is and they get into an argument over it and stuff. Yeah. But the whole thing is that, well, I need to get him, and it's just a realistic thing of like,
he's an idiot, but I got to get him.
Yeah, and that's what makes it more real. Anytime it's like it's not purely like lovey-dovey stuff, and like the wife yells at him, and by the end I was like, oh, that's just how she is.
Oh,
Like, I feel
yeah.
like I got to know
Oh,
her as the
dude.
book went on.
I know her.
Oh,
No, I'm kidding. No, but it's really good. So they make it back to Walmart, and at this time, people are going nuts. So they find out that he's on the roof with a bunch of friends, and there's zombies all over the place. And so he gets this ladder for them to actually get on this ladder, but it's like 2-3 feet too short. So like the kid doesn't want to do it, and he's arguing with the kid about what do you got to drink? You're gonna do this, you can do that, and they got beer and stuff like that. But that's where it gets interesting, because once you read it or listen to it, you understand why they didn't just do something simple, because it wouldn't have explained kind of this next character that's going to be introduced. That's amazing.
yes. And
One of the best characters in the whole book.
And that's the thing is, it's like, well, the reason this situation is happening in the first place is a very mysterious character
Correct.
has enabled it to happen.
Right.
So, normally this would not have happened. That person would be right. This was unrealistic because there is something going on besides zombies.
Yes. And so he's going to get his son down, and there is a character they introduced named Tommy.
Who I thought I knew who they were going to be, and now I'm not sure anymore. And something is going on that I know is relevant to Like and Fallout.
Oh, yeah, we know that. Yeah. So this character, Tommy, and he is a greeter. So he is mentally challenged. But he is so special. They're getting off the building, and he's expecting this kid, which is a big kid. They explain where he's like big, and they don't really go into the fact where he's like overweight or anything. He's just a big kid, right?
Yeah, so it's like,
Kind of do.
because I'm basing his appearance off a character that I thought that they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, they describe him differently too.
Yeah, so they explain the son get on the ladder, and he like misses the first step, and he ends up almost falling off the ladder. And then they don't want to leave Tommy, so here comes Tommy. They've already broken through the hatch, so they're coming onto the roof. And next thing you know, he is looking around him, and he looks up, and Tommy's already on the ladder. There was no problem, no. So you automatically start going, okay, who's this kid? They could be that agile and all that stuff. And as you go on, he's this really sensitive, sweet kid, but he has access to different worldly things where
He has an insight into the world that caught me off guard when he told me what the answer to that was, because I expected them to be like, no, just kidding. But then they don't. They're like, everyone just accepted that as the answer.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, I don't. It was basically like, right, I don't know what I thought they were gonna say.
Right.
I also, this is one of those little things where anytime someone manages to make someone's like, oh, this character's trait is they really like food. If they manage to make that actually endearing to me, I'm like, you got a point. Because normally I find that very cheap.
They did a good job in this.
I liked, because it was also like, it gets them into like these things that like are believable, and also like, is he messing with them?
But yeah, that's where it starts to get crazy, because they've fortified their house. They're in their house, and this kid has an obsession with Pop-Tarts, which, yeah, and we'll go into a little bit later. But they don't even know where he's getting them from.
Yeah.
And he'll just come out with a Twix, and they're like, we didn't even know we had Twix.
Yeah. Which, by the way, everyone is constantly like mentioned that they're just buying snacks and stuff, and it's like everyone was like, get all the sodas you can, because it's also like this will be the last soda ever made.
Yeah.
Maybe. So like, well, we're gonna drink a lot of Pepsi. And this is also a thing where like I don't think it was product placement, but I also don't mind product placement that much, because I'm like, well, I mean, I like products. So like in a real world situation, I think name dropping products is more realistic than them not saying them.
Well, especially when you're listening to a book, or even reading a book. In the end, a good example of that is Kleenex. You look at Kleenex and, oh, it's the tissue, right? Well, Kleenex is the brand. It's not the product. Mm-hmm. But we know everything as Kleenex. So referencing a Kit Kat or referencing a Pop-Tart, I have no problem with. It helps me focus in on what it is in my mind.
I'll see that in movies, we just saw Uncharted, and it was like they're at a Papa John's. Like, I don't.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
I don't care.
Oh yeah,
I don't. Those exist. So
I think
like,
it's cool.
That kind of grounds it a little more to me. I'm like,
and even bringing it back into zombies when they redid Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
Oh,
right, the newer one, which was made I think in what had to be 90 or something. But anyway, when they redid it, the mall that they were in refused to let them use any of their branding. So if you watch that movie, the coffee shop is like who knows what. And so what they did was they just took that and they put the names of some of the people that were in the films. And there's a small documentary on it. So they've taken like different things and made it kind of nostalgic, which is kind of cool. And I think First Day of the Dead was the same way. I could be mistaken, but
I was also under the impression, and I felt this way during the Breed's author is different, Michael Blackmore, something like that. Blackmore is definitely his last name. It definitely felt like the author of this went to a Walmart and he went, all right, they could probably get guns there, and because it feels so real, which is why I think that name dropping like Walmart doesn't feel like wrong to me. No, I don't know if anyone's saying it was great, but just in a movie, I feel like people would have an issue with it. But it is just like it just makes like he probably went there and was like that would probably be a good vantage point.
Yeah, and he really did good with this book because they didn't really have to do it that much in Lycan Fallout, but he did good with really kind of explaining. It would be a lot of the things that he did I would do.
Yeah,
I mean, it was really thought out. It wasn't like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, and even to the point where it's funny, where he's like, I reinforced everything but the frickin' back gate. Oh, dude, it was great.
And I like too that I've noticed a few stories they'll mention a character has a military background, and then it is not relevant to anything happening in the story.
Yeah,
and they don't even do well in fights.
Yeah,
but every now and then, because this guy is very he's not nearly as jokey as he was in Lycan Fallout, which I'm like, oh, that's cool how he went through a process.
But it's funny, you can see the evolution.
It's noticeably different. I can notice the different writing in this character, which is cool because it still feels like the same guy.
Yes.
But it is like every now and then he will like get into a fist fight and just like, oh yeah, he like just a couple of moves he needed to do.
And just to let you know, if you haven't listened to or read Lycan Fallout, we have a show on it.
Wait, we have a show. There's probably a little link here. If not, there's a thumbnail, or like now there's a swirling fractal pattern of all that is or ever could be.
Fractal. That just doesn't sound right.
Fractal. You say it 3 times, it loses all meaning. Fractal.
Fractal.
Ah, my fractal.
So, in Lycan Fallout, we meet this character, and it's been hundreds of years since his family has passed away because he's become a vampire, part vampire, to actually save the world from the zombies. So it's funny because you look at that character and he's sat in the same place for hundreds of years because he can't get over the loss of his family. And then it's kind of really nice. I mean, it's a zombie book, but it's really cool to see him prior to that. And then knowing, like you said, how the writer, man, took that into account.
Yeah.
Totally took that into account. And I really like that. I almost feel like it was better for me to listen to Lycan Fallout and then listen to this.
Because it is cool because I'm like, I don't know. I know something, and things didn't even go the way I thought they did in Lycan Fallout when he talks about his family. I thought like, but then it's like they reveal later on, like, this is what happened. And I'm like, oh, so like, I don't know, like there's only certain things that I know for sure will happen, but all these are like, oh, what's going to get to this point? How's this going to get here?
Yeah.
So it is very fun. I like doing it's just another level of enjoyment for it because I think it's pulled off very well.
Yeah, so we go through the different natural things that you would expect in a zombie audiobook or book.
Yeah.
So
pretty,
you go and that stuff's all kind of generic. You're going to go to the store. There's going to be zombies there. Oh, you're going to do this, and you're going to constantly be escaping. The zombie horde.
The thing I always forget every single time I get into one of this guy's books is he is so good at pulling off dark storylines.
Yes.
The second he wants to cover something dark, I have been completely immersed in it, and I get like horrified.
Yeah.
And so like going into this, I'm like, is that going to be in this, or is that a skill he developed later? And he did it in this one too.
Yeah.
And every time he takes something, and I'm like, I know like typical rules and stuff, and I'm like, that was horrifying. I have never seen that before.
Yeah, and it's unique because most people are used to the movies, right? You have your Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, 28 Days Later, which they're not zombies, but they're actually infected.
Rage virus and
yeah, and I believe that was a direct involvement or evolution. Then you had Day of the Dead come out, or Dawn of the Dead, the new one with fast zombies, and then all of a sudden it became a kind of fast zombie thing. I think 28 Days Later had a big impact on that because most people think they're zombies when they're not. Now, the first trivia that I know of fast zombies was actually Return of the Living Dead, which was a comedy in the 80s.
That's the first one to do.
From what I know. Yep.
Because zombies, it is weird to think that zombies, as we, even being in pop culture knowledge, it's pretty new.
Well, I mean, you have White Zombie, which was one of the first movies.
Oh.
White Zombie. But you have zombie movies that have been around. The whole idea of a voodoo zombie has been around for a long time.
Oh.
On that aspect. So, but most of the books and everything, a lot of people just go to the movies, they see that movie, and that's what that's great. So there's a lot more books out there, audiobooks that go into making it a little bit different. There's one that I read that they try to nuke the zombies, and the radiation actually makes them smarter. But it's really well done in the story. And they did a little bit of that here.
Yeah.
Where the zombies were showing signs of intelligence that he started noticing.
And what's cool is because I'll try not to constantly bring up like in Fallout, but because
I kind of almost have to.
Because it's post this zombie apocalypse, and then now there's a new issue. It is like, I actually don't know the rules of the zombies in this universe.
No.
I actually, because it's like it's over for them.
Right.
So I still, even though I know like this main character so much, I don't know like what spin he's gonna put on these things.
And doesn't it scare the living what's out of you thinking of like in Fallout when they actually encounter a zombie hundreds of years after?
Yeah, so it's like it's not.
And it really didn't make a big deal to you when you saw it. You were like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's like a reference to how there was a zombie thing.
Deal.
Yeah.
But then when you're now back in the past, you're sitting there going, oh, holy moly, there's still one. That means there's. And he says there's got to be more in hibernation. So So I mean, man, if I could only recommend just the way that he does the character development and the writing is just, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely would have enjoyed him more had I done Zombie Fallout first.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I see what I was missing in this character was right over here in the first story he was in.
Yeah,
so,
and I totally agree, because also some of the other stuff that we'll get into. So there's some spoilers, things that we won't touch until later. It's going to be hard to skirt around that, but so
I think there's a very clear mark, which would be the kiss.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of where it's like,
yeah, that's where it takes it to another level.
There's a new story. And then, of course, the final threat, which was just like I forgot that the writer was really good at stuff like this.
Yeah.
And getting really dark and like brutal, because it's usually very jokey, but then the second he gets serious or like scary, it's like right there. And I'm like, I'm in it. Probably because I've like been so into like how normal everything is like done, or how realistic everything is depicted, that I'm like, I believe that this is a part of this world.
Yeah, and it's like, so they're in his house for a period of time. And it's a typical, like, introducing characters that are part of the world, and your main enemy at this point is just zombies and numbers. And of course they're learning how to deal with, sound attracts them, different things attract them, and his play on those things are just hilarious. I mean, I just love his play on those things. Like,
Yeah.
there's a whole part where him and his son are in this small little thing and they're farting. Remember, in the kitchen. It's so little stupid, but it's hilarious.
And that was another thing where it's like, that felt like just a real, genuine moment where he was like alone drinking a beer.
Yeah.
And he farted, and his son came in. He's like, "Oh God."
Yeah.
And it was just like this genuine moment that these two people had that made them feel like, oh, that's not his like son who he's
Right.
that is like, oh, I get his son. Like I felt like I knew him a little more.
Yeah, and I like the idea. Like, so they want to go to a Home Depot, and that's their idea. So they go to this Home Depot, and they have some interaction with zombies, and then because they have a guy that can reinforce the walls and basically wall up their whole neighborhood. So they go and they load up everything into a semi that he says that he can drive, but they go into the story, but he really can't. And it's cool because this is, I think, one of the first times in the storyline where you have outside of a zombie human interaction that's negative. So, they interact with these guys that want to basically steal everything from them, and it's cool. It's like they do little things like the guys that are with them use laser levelers to make them think that they're being zoned in on snipers and stuff. I thought, because when listening to it, I'm like, who the hell's got a sniper? So I'm thinking that it's going to make another turn, and then it doesn't. And I thought that was really refreshing. It was just what I think that would truly happen is our innovation in survival. I know that sounds crazy.
Well, and that is from the sequel to John Dies at the End of the Book. This book is full of spiders, which we will cover eventually.
Yes.
They talk a lot about zombie stuff, and one of them is like, humanity's like advantage in nature is that we're creative.
Right.
And a zombie is a human who has been stripped of that, and that and that's why it's like a fun target is this idea of someone you can kill without any moral issue, who you can just outsmart, and that's like a human fantasy, and that's like a nomadic route we have in our minds.
Yeah.
Of defeating the other tribe.
Yeah, I see that.
And the tribe who wins is the one who's like, what if instead of like poking them, we threw stuff at them?
Yeah. And with this book, it's interesting because I know that you gotta, when you listen to a book like this or read a book like this, sometimes, it just gets old, right? I mean, what's a zombie story? What is going to happen? He has a really good way to actually set up his family. That's that core. And then have things happen to change the way that it goes. Like they went to rescue their not uncle, but uncle without their dad's permission.
Yeah.
And what was great about that is the fact that you have the kids, they are going to bypass their mom, which they're afraid of. They're going to bypass their dad to go rescue his friend, but they don't want to take his Jeep because he will kill them if he takes his Jeep. That's real. That I was like, oh my gosh.
So many scenes in this felt like that's a real thing that happened to this guy. He talks about a homeowners association, they got into a fight. I'm like, okay, so the author got into an argument with the homeowners association. The author had an issue with a close friend that maybe had some effect on his marriage. I'm like, that feels so real. I have a hard time believing that was able to be made up.
Yeah. And so the book just just moves along similar to that until then it makes its first kind of switch. And the first kind of switch is that they're leaving Walmart, and they notice a lady zombie just standing there. And it's not coming towards them. It's not moaning or not doing none of that. And the guy that noticed too, he's going to shoot her. And our main character goes, no, just leave her alone. And they leave. Well, it kind of leaves this weird feeling in your stomach, like, why? What was going on there? And who, really, why wasn't she attacking? Why wasn't this? And they start to notice that some of the zombies are actually having thought process, and they're kind of really worried about it. And it's funny, some people aren't, but they're really worried about, what if these things start figuring stuff out?
Yeah, what if this is temporary?
Right. And it's like, it was really interesting because she makes another appearance, which is similarly scary, but not as scary as the last performance.
And yeah, that's where it's like, this is the horror that this author keeps surprising me with. Every time he tricks me, and I think it's not going to be a horror thing. And then I'm like, I forgot he's so good at pulling these scenes like this off.
And what's the craziest part about the character itself is you're talking about a guy that's in a zombie Fallout, and he's a germaphobe. Wow. And they go through some of that stuff where he's like, I'm not going to eat for like 5 weeks.
And I one of the scenes I loved was him describing smells.
I was
like, it made me like, I never realized that this is an advantage books have, is they can describe a sense like this. Like movies can't, they'll never be able to like let you feel like you understand what something smells like.
That's
but
true.
He was just like, and because it's written in a journal form, he's like, I don't think you get what I'm saying. It smell, and he just goes off, and he's like, like dog poop that like on your earrings, and you have to breathe it in, and he like gets into the feeling of it. And I was like, okay, I believe you. I don't want to be there anymore.
And it's funny. That's what that other book reviewer said, was that, it just took the dog crap on a shoe like forever, and it was just too long. But what I got out of it is the fact that when you're dealing with all that stuff, isn't the last thing you're going to be thinking about is poop on your shoes? When you got zombies licking your doorknob and you got zombies trying to attack you? I think that was the point.
Yeah, like because I the way I saw it was, it's like, because there's dead bodies all around them, and it's like a lot of people, or there are people that don't know what that smells like. So and especially in like this idea of zombies being like I have my zombie apocalypse plan of it being fun.
Yeah,
it's like the idea of like, you don't realize how like horrifying that's being. Also, like just be the environment. So it was like, I'm surrounded by dead bodies. Like, you imagine trying to sleep with that sound, that smell, like how that like affects your entire mood. Like you can't even eat because everything just smells horrible, and it smells like death and decay. And I don't think, if you don't know what that smells like, let me explain it to you.
I think he does a great job at that.
Yeah.
Even back where he uses the earplugs.
Yeah.
The 9mm shells. Great.
Never gets mentioned, like in other stories, that like is someone who's not used to it, or even people who are.
Well, it's funny because sometimes, like the newer ones or the ones I've been listening to, really go into the fact, and it's kind of chilling. Where guys talking about in one book that it's so loud, it's just the moaning and the scratching is just maddening, along with the smell, and you're thinking, pretty good description, because I mean, you're talking about. You've smelled a dead animal or whatever on the street and going, oh man, pew. Now imagine 1,000 full-size human beings shuffling around trying to get in your house.
Yeah.
Totally different.
You can smell them. You can, you're, I also did like the gradual, like it's subtle. It's not complete. I think they still have hot water, but they do mention we're running out of these luxuries.
Yeah.
We're starting to run out, we'll have hot water for a bit longer, so enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, and he knows that he kind of knows these things that have to be done, and he always kind of has a plan. He always tries to actually have a plan for these things, so it gets involved in other characters, and it kind of takes you on this cool road, and then it just takes a dark turn that I pictured it in my mind. And dude, it's crazy.
Yeah. I really, cause I was like, okay, it's like a typical zombie story. I'm not into zombie stories a lot. I'm more interested. That was a burp. If you couldn't, yeah. I was really interested in Tommy. I'm like, what are we gonna do with him? What's going on with that female zombie? And then the ending, which was,
We need to go back to Tommy
yeah, Tommy.
before the other thing.
Yeah, those were just the highlights for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, Tommy is throughout the story, and he is the first hint, if you're completely new to this series, that there is something besides zombies happening. I thought at the beginning, but as it goes on,
Yeah.
it gets a little more like, I don't know anymore. I thought I knew the exact answer, but Tommy will occasionally say things that have insight to them.
Yes, and he mentions the fact that he has a little person, and it's Ryan Seacrest
And
in his head.
I felt completely in sync with the main character of Michael Talbot. When he said that answer, I had the exact reaction that the character did, because he was, because it was like, everyone has a voice in their head. Oh, who is it? It's Ryan Seacrest. He's like, all right.
I know.
It was like, what?
Now the thing which makes it crazier for me, and I'm sure you too, is of course, like in Fallout. Like in Fallout, there is a character there, and his name is Tommy. And it blew me away because Tommy, like in Fallout, calls Michael Talbot Mr. T. And when he said that in this book, I was just like, what? Because he had this abnormal ability to kind of be in the right place and help them in the right way. So, like, he would, when they rescued the uncle, they pulled over the car, the kids, and turned it off. And he goes, oh, I wouldn't have done that. And everything he says for them to do, no, don't do that. Like, he'll just show up with Pop-Tarts and save the day because he'll give the information that they need.
And I guess no spoilers yet, but like there is a scene where he just says like, oh, this happened, and everyone ignores him, and like way down the line they realize that, but it's like, yeah, he said that right at the beginning that this was gonna happen.
Yeah, and what's cool is that they start to just listen. They start to like not even argue with the fact, which is crazy to me because it's like you have nothing else. Everything else has been stripped from you. All information, all facts, all online, all these things have been stripped from you, and it just makes sense. It's such a crazy environment that you're going to believe this guy. And his son doesn't even remember the guy at Walmart. He says, oh, yeah, I think so. He doesn't even know how he got to the roof because he was there before they got there.
Yeah, like, who opened the roof for you? Well, Tommy did, I
Tommy
suppose.
did.
Yeah, and it was like, well, Tommy was a greeter, because he's like special needs.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I'd never interact with him, which is this is a realistic thing. You never like real. Yeah, I don't know that guy. Like we worked at the same business together.
So it starts to be this big mystery, and that starts to turn your head because you're like, okay, what? This isn't just zombies. I mean, what's going on here?
And that's what I liked about the world in Fallout. So it's like, all right, so we're already it's like, it's cool that there are already hints of that right at the beginning.
Yeah. And they did I think they did a really good job at that. Like, at least that one guy was saying that Tommy was his favorite character, which is true. Tommy he shines through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you feel really bad on certain parts of the book. And when they asked him about his parents and different things like that, So there was these weird links to like in Fallout. Now, there's still 3 books, but I could come up to my conclusions, but that's later.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, where do you want to go? Do you want to go with the?
Well, because a lot of the story, it's a traditional zombie storyline.
Traditional.
Well executed.
I think so.
I'm which like when I'm listening, I'm like, yeah, just that thing of like this is pulling off what it's trying to do well. I just don't particularly care about zombie stuff like this.
And some people with zombie books like the zombie books where they explain detail, or this is what I'm doing. I'm connecting a battery to the solar, because some zombie people might be, not hoarders. What's the other word for it? Preppers and different things like that. So there's a lot of books out there that have that. This doesn't. It's more of a kind of almost in between, where he'll explain how he does it, but he's not going into the schematic of it.
Yeah, he's like, I know how to set up this. You could do this, and I'm doing, and that's what I did,
Yeah.
and that's how it's done. There's the some people forget. I saw something explaining that like a lot of stuff with zombies is it's more about the sudden like degradation of society,
Yes.
like the sudden collapse of it is like,
Romero was all political.
and that's what zombie
Yeah.
stories are, you know.
Hence the mall, us shoppers, us
Yeah.
sheeple.
Yes, and this one took place in Walmart. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't. This story doesn't like go into that side of it, as far as I know.
And I don't know if that's the origin. That's the way it's developed. I think in the modern time, I don't think like voodoo zombies and all that stuff and white zombie back in the black and white movies were like that. There's always been a thing about people raising from the dead. That's why they used to put bricks in people's mouths back in the day and bury them. And they would cut off their heads and put stakes through them because they didn't want to raise from the dead or become vampires and things.
Well, yeah, I think this was like this captured that spirit too of like and that's what I liked about it being like honey, which was like okay, it's a sudden collapse and now like everyone is free from law, which is that's like a part of zombie stuff is like okay, there are no longer any hard rules,
Right?
So what happens now, and part of it being like what a zombie represents, it is like. And, you know, and that thing, like when someone's bit, at what point is it okay to shoot them in the head? Because
Yes.
like, oh, he's going to turn. Okay, well, you can't shoot him now because he's like my friend still. Well, okay. Now he's a monster.
Well, and it even gets into that. It also gets into the fact that I'll be honest, and you same. You know, we think of zombie movies and they're great and blah blah blah, and it's all cool. But it's very odd until this last. Well, they did it in Day of the Dead. I mean, they did it in Dawn of the Dead originally. But there's something about a kid zombie that just doesn't fit right with people. And it's like scary. They did it in The Walking Dead, and that's what freaked people out. But that's what would happen. And then it's like, if you're killing zombies, would you be able to do that? And they kind of go.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, where he's just like something about this. I can't.
So
this is like a new kind of like evil, like of like in my soul that I can't.
So he's not shooting below 3 feet.
Yeah,
because he knows he's gonna hit a kid.
There's a great line in the cut version of This Book is Full of Spiders where it was like a bunch of kids get infected. So the guy goes, "Remember, these are kids. Aim low." And he was just like, the author was like, yeah, they wouldn't let me do that.
I can understand. Aim well.
Oh, aim low.
Oh, aim low.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, it's pretty good. And then it gets into where we see the female zombie again, and he explains her as attractive.
It's like this, like, which, you know, you see like the ghostly, like.
Yeah, he sees her as
effect.
attractive if she wasn't, you know, half her face, I think, was missing or something. Or her neck, I think it was. So you see her again. This is the second time you see her.
I remember the final time.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, the wife, like, fights the zombie of a girl that tried to steal her man from her.
No.
And that was a very fun, like, that.
And that was pretty funny. I don't know why that ended up in the book, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So they go out and they run into her again, and it's the same thing. It's I think in the alleyway or something, and she just doesn't really get involved. And so the wife goes out. That's what the story you were talking about. The wife goes out to try to find the sons because the sons left to go rescue their step uncle, her dad's friend, which they go into why they're friends, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I like anytime they go into like, oh, this was him. This is like this is how we knew each other. This way.
That was great,
and it's a really cool thing. Like, I believe that's his friend.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't just that's my friend who they call uncle. It's like I could see how that all happened,
and that's what makes the book real in certain ways, because there's a point where the kids go out there and there's a statement that he made, and he goes, you know, that is his fault for waiting that long. And even though I love him, he waited till his window of opportunity ran out, and I would never sacrifice one of my sons or one of my kids for him.
And it felt so real.
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay.
And that's what I really liked about this author is I'm like, yeah, like I get yeah, that is your friend, but those were your kids, man.
Yeah.
And he should have done better. He knows better.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool they go into even the friends' guilt and emotion with it. So I mean, I
Which was this whole like other like side where he's just like, like he's talking like he knows he messed up. I'm not here to pile on. And it was just like,
realistic way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because as they describe things like that, I went, okay, yeah, I get it. I would probably be the same way.
yeah. That's what I really like about this guy is every time I'm like, I get it. Like every character is like a real person to the point where like, I'm like, I assume that's based off a friend of his that did something like that because it feels so real.
Yeah, it was good. And and it's weird because you almost have like this sub story. You have the story that's going on with him, which I totally enjoy because the guy is constantly bringing up references of different things and constantly saying things that just freaking crack you up. And it's just stuff that, like I said, I think all of us kind of do. I think all of us will look at somebody and go, oh my gosh, God, look at that head. It's a huge head. All of us do these things and in the book that brings out in the character. His love of his wife, his love of his kids, him at certain points not really understanding what's happening and not understanding whether they're gonna live, but he's not gonna tell his wife that. And he, and there's a part which cracked me up was when he comes back and the mom of course is upset and that him and Tommy were in this thing and she starts yelling at Tommy and just Tommy starts crying.
Oh.
She's yelling at Tommy, of course, because she worried about him being in danger. And his response is, don't worry, Tommy, she'll peter out in a second. And then when Tommy starts crying, she hugs Tommy and then starts yelling at him. And Tommy goes, don't worry, Mr. T, she'll peter out in a minute. That was great.
Yeah, it was just like those two guys. It
was just great.
Those scamps over there.
And I don't know if I enjoyed it so much because of we listened to Lycan Fallout. I just really enjoyed it.
This feels like a lot of like context being filled in for me. When I'm hearing this stuff, I'm like, yeah, like he did talk about that. I'm like, oh, that's, and it's like it's also like all this stuff is like being built up. So it's not like they were like talking and like being like by the end of it, they're like, Tommy's like one of ours, and I'm like, yeah, I believe it.
And he even refers to Tommy as his family.
Yeah,
where he's like, and he tells, they're at the like crescendo, let's just say, where they have a lot of stuff happening, and I'll just say this one part, but that shows his emotion. He's talking to his kids and telling them that, when he calls them, then they're going to make a run for it. If the town falls, they're jetting. And that, he breaks it down to him like, I think that you would. He's like, if you stop for anybody, then you've killed us all. You've killed me, your mom, your sister, Tommy.
Yeah.
That was harsh, dude. When he said that, I was like, holy moly. But in the end, he even says, I had to say it that way.
Because it's like, this is
the truth. I had to.
That's how you avoid those horror movie things of like,
yeah.
And I think that's
they do a really good job with the relationships with them.
Yeah, that line that stuck in my head too when he's like, what am I supposed to like? Like during the zombie thing, he's like, that's my. His wife's like, that's my son. And they're like, what am I? She's like, those are my flesh and blood. You're just some guy I met.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I was like in the moment, like, okay, she's definitely emotional.
Yeah.
She didn't mean that.
Yeah.
But like the main character does, like, he's like, that hurt.
Yeah.
Like that didn't feel nice for you to tell me that.
And it's funny, in the book they give the wife a snapshot. That's when
she got her own section.
Yeah, she got her own section. Cause I kind of really wanted to know more about them. I think the kids are fine. You get enough of the kids and you love Tommy and the wife. I was like, oh man. And then they give her a little part, which you understand more of her, which was great. I think that the way he structured it and everything, I think worked fine. And then it just goes like crazy on you.
Yes, because the whole thing, if you don't know still, it's not a traditional zombie story.
Correct.
Because there are other things going on, Tommy being your first hint of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was surprised that it already hints it in the first book. I thought, like, oh, is that something he, like, started doing as they went on? And, like, oh, at the last minute was it ever? Like, no, it was like the seeds were planted at the very beginning.
And then where do you want to do the spoiler?
I suppose we'd have to... Well, in my mind, it's the kiss, but, like, what else is there?
Do you want? I think we covered a lot of everything else.
Yeah,
and that will, I'm sure, go back.
Yeah, I think we could probably do it now.
All right. So, if you're not interested in the spoiler, please watch one of our past shows.
Yeah. So over here, it's
don't leave. Just watch one of our
First
past
of all,
shows.
don't leave this page.
You know what you
pause
could do?
it, put it in a new tab, open up a new tab.
Yeah. You know what you could do? You could actually go listen to our Like and Fallout page. Or you can wait and then watch this one and then read the book or listen to the book and then watch our fucking...
Take a note of when you stopped watching, put it on mute,
There
put
you
it in the
go.
background, let it keep playing,
There you go.
and then come back. And
There you
finish it.
go. Okay, I think we're
All right,
good.
now we're going to enter just full discussion mode.
Now, full discussion. Okay, so we're here at this point. People that have read this book are totally like, we've left out. You're like, you've left out that, left out that. So, in the end, they're finding out that the zombies are moving in controlled groups, and they don't really understand it. Why they're going here and not there.
Oh, yeah, they talk about, like, they're like, they don't move, a predator doesn't move until all their food is gone.
Right.
So it's like they're waiting, because it's like, we're like the last bastion of food for them.
Right. So they have now put fences around the whole town, group of houses. So what ends up happening is that the zombies, well, not all of them are there, but there's a few there. And our main character, Michael Talbot, he's on the fence. He has guard duty, and like all of them do. And that lady is outside the city. And she points to him. Now, other people don't see it, but the guy next to him sees it. And he's like, I think she's pointing at you. And she lets out this whole thing. But all of a sudden, this is where it kind of takes this twist. Because all of a sudden, he is like propelled to go out to see her.
Yeah, like it's like a real siren.
Really, yeah. And good way to put it. Like a harpy.
Yeah.
You know?
Like
And-
my ex-girlfriend.
Are you sure that wasn't she gave you? I'm kidding.
Oh, no, yeah, she gave me harpies.
Harpies?
Yeah.
Yeah. They just call you and call you and call you and call you. So he's pulled to
I don't feel like they got enough appreciation. I really like that.
That's great.
I'm just soaking in it for a bit. Oh yeah, he's pulled.
Hey, he's pulled. Wait a minute. I'll give you the justice. All right.
Yeah.
So he's being pulled towards this chick, and it's like he can't stop it, and he jumps off the fence, and everyone's like, "What?" And he's like, in his mind, he can't stop moving towards her, but is wanting someone to shoot her.
Yeah, he's talking against, like, someone
Right.
stop this.
Right. And that's when you start going, okay, something is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I did go ahead of myself. Yeah. No, maybe not.
No, I don't think.
Okay. So he goes out to her. And yes, that's after. So he goes out to her, and he's propelled out there to her. And here's this chick that, like, he's very descriptive of how it smells, how it's nasty, how he sees like a fly land on her. I mean, just all sorts of nastiness. And
Which that visual too,
Oh.
of him being like at night, like this like weird zombie like
Oh,
pointing at him,
dude.
and then him being like driven to walk towards this like dead,
Yeah.
decaying body. I real like under a night sky with the stars. Oh,
Yeah. And I think it was right before that where she points and tells him to go, right? Is that before the kiss?
yeah,
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why I messed out. So originally before he gets off
yeah,
the
yeah,
wall,
yeah, yeah.
before he gets off the wall, he's pointing at him, and then she points toward the mountains. And he's like, "What? You want me to go?" And she girdles out, "Go." And he's like, "What?" And that's when he like gets pulled to her, and she's there, kind of almost like, "Okay, you're picking to stay, you know, you're gonna go," and then just lays this kiss on him, dude.
And the way I really like the way like how disgusting it was, like and like black slime was like tendril like little threads
Oh,
of black
yeah.
slime when they kissed was
Right.
like
Like this black slime came apart from them and a fly landed on it. Oh, dude, he's so descriptive. It's like the grossest thing in the world. And he ends up feeling all these different emotions, and it's kind of almost, I won't say dimensional kind of stuff going on. And that's when it really, you're like, oh, man. Yeah, that makes sense. Because in Lycan Fallout, part of it you wonder why, really, how did they do it? Really?
yeah, but it's like oh they can
But now there's other things going on. There's mystical things happening. It's not just zombies. And so he like passes out, and they take him in, and then why he's passed out, he has other stuff and other dreams and
yeah, and they mentioned it's been like it's been like a couple of days too, and they're like
and of course they mentioned Tommy, and Tommy knows that these things. He's scared of that lady,
and that's a great way to really highlight the horrors. You have that mysterious guy who seems to always know the answer.
Yeah.
Suddenly be like, oh.
Yeah, he hasn't heard from Ryan Seacrest. And they ask him, and you're like, "Oh shit, where's Ryan Seacrest?" You know, so and it just escalates really quick from there. He ends up in his house. He knows that then all the zombies start showing up, and there's hundreds and thousands of them, and they're eventually going to get in. So he like takes out the stairwell and takes out the bottom floor, so that if zombies walk into the house, they'll fall down into the basement, get up, climb back out, and then fall in the basement again. And he's like creates this whole thing. And that was a whole funny thing when he did that. But so now you're at a point where all these things are happening. And there's zombies at the gate, so to speak. And he finally comes to, and oh, I missed another part too. The whole crazy guy.
Yeah, that's the
coming, right?
That's that's post it because he goes to like do like another scavenging run. That's like one of the last things that happen.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
oh
he's-
yeah,
he-
right before the whole overtaking. So he goes and he chases. How does he get a hold of that guy again? The guy in the house with Bear.
He's just like scavenging, and he's like, I think this house is abandoned, and I need to like.
Yeah, but it's in their neighborhood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So he just goes into the guy's basement. He's like, "What's all?"
Yeah,
and
yeah.
He just stumbles into it.
And I don't even know. That's a spoiler on a spoiler. But he goes into this house and he finds this guy that has a zombie tied up, and he's doing things with this zombie.
And it was one of the most disturbing scenes.
It
And-
truly was. It truly was. I was like, did you really have to go there?
And he talks about I had to take its teeth out. And
Yeah,
I'm
because
like,
he goes, "Why aren't you afraid of it biting you?" He goes, "No, I took all of its teeth out."
and he's like, and it's gotten me sometimes when it gets
Oh
loose.
my gosh, it
Yeah.
was so nasty. And then it turned out you wanted to take that guy out yourself right then, but it turns out that he's been doing this to people,
Yeah, and they're just to
live people.
They don't say it out loud, but they're like, it wasn't just zombies he was doing that to.
Yeah.
And he
So he ends up taking the guy out, and it's interesting because in the neighborhood they've kind of created a little like kind of society and a law. So it doesn't matter that he killed a zombie or he was doing the things as a zombie. It's the fact that Michael killed him
Yeah,
that he was going to be on trial for.
the feeling was just like we can't already start. We can't let this slide.
Yeah.
Because we need to establish that there are laws, and you can't.
Yeah.
So
And I found that interesting. I found that cool because I think that's what people would do.
yeah, and it's like we need to set a precedent, and the people that were in charge were like, I mean,
Yeah.
look, we're not even saying what you did was wrong, but
Right.
and they weren't even saying, well, you'll be convicted, but it was like
Right.
you have to go on trial, and we have to talk about this because we can't let it.
stuff like this happen.
Yeah, no matter how justified it was, we need to make
Yeah.
sure that there is a law here. We need to remind people that there is a law. Otherwise, it felt real because like one of the guys was like he didn't even like him, and he was just like, "Look, I get you doing it,"
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
like, but we have to do this, so you're gonna go in jail for a bit. That's what, like some guy he had an issue with was like, you're back, Mike, and he just breaks his like leg.
Yeah, and originally when he goes in there, he finds a Rottweiler, and that the Rottweiler joins the family in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and thanks to Tommy, right? So
Bear, which was the name. I had a Rottweiler named Bear.
really,
Yeah.
Oh.
I guess it's a popular name for bears or Rottweilers. I have an issue with that. That's like one of those words.
that you have like me with a Populix.
Yeah, rah 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 rah
Rah, 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 rah.
rah rah.
Rada, rada, rada.
There we go.
People know that one. But so it was really interesting because at that point of the book when she showed up, I knew it was kind of weird, but then it went like south. It started getting crazy. So they started actually, fast forward, of course all the zombies get out, and they're in the neighborhood taking people out, and everyone makes it home. And so they're kind of waiting out the whole zombie thing to maybe have enough time to get out. Now they kind of made this big semi so people could escape the town, which of course there could only be like 50 people or something on there. So he heard someone leaving with that. So it's interesting. I like how they bounce around like that. I just did. It just was cool.
Yeah, and I like the whole thing where they're he's like waiting in jail, and the guy's like, all right, get out. Like, what? Now they're here. Like, just get out.
Oh
and go.
yeah,
And it's like it's over. There's no trial.
Yeah, and that was pretty good. It also then again showed that how it would be different. Because in the prison with him was the same guy that he ran into at Walmart in the beginning, like I told you. So he's like a bad guy, and he ends up getting shot when they were trying to take over the town, and now he's in prison. So when he lets Mr. T out, the other guy hey, what about me? And he's like, hey,
Yeah.
can't help you. And he leaves the dude there screaming. That was
Because he like threatens him, and he's like,
Yeah.
all right, then I'm
Yeah.
done. And he's like, wait, he's like, now you're done. And the guy's like, I'm glad you you kept running your mouth.
and that's
because-
what he said.
Yeah,
Even-
you would have dragged us all down, and
Yeah.
he probably would have died saving you. So I'm really glad you could not shut up for 5 minutes.
that was pretty crazy.
but
But
just the homeowners associate leader. I was like, I ended up liking him by the end.
I did.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I thought he was a douche, but in the end, I'm like, dude, he's a good guy.
Yeah,
And even Mr. T and him got along.
yeah. That's,
it
that's
was
one
great.
of those things I like, where they like,
And they explained that they had a big old fight.
yeah, they're like a whole thing over trash cans and
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah. That's what I think is cool about this book and this author is that I like how he sometimes makes a character feel real. And like I said, now going back to Lycan Fallout totally makes sense.
yeah. I definitely.
Why he's so nostalgic, why he's so into those things.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to re-listen to it, especially the one later that got that character that I like a lot more.
Oh yeah.
With the beer guy.
So definitely you got to watch Lycan.
Yes, and you have to watch the review, which is it up again. That's crazy.
And make sure you liken it. So if you've heard this book or read the book, definitely anytime that you want to ask us questions or anything like that, you go ahead and send it over, because of course these are our opinions. And and it's definitely cool to hear other aspects of what people think. And if it's interesting for you, definitely, you get Audible and different things like that, and you can listen to it, and you'll totally enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I said, I like this because if you're into not only zombies, but I mean, they hit the whole gambit, really. Not towards the end, but they hit the whole gambit in the first book. So it's you'll get the zombie experience and stuff, and then you start really tripping out. Like one of the parts that was tripping me out was where all the zombies, they take over the whole place. And so the Talbot family is in the upstairs, and they're just going to wait it out. And it's sad because they've heard people screaming, different things like that, but they have to just go about their business because then they'll die with them. So everything is happening and everything is good. And then, Bear gets tripped out and looking at the window, and then all of a sudden all the zombies start coming. So now they're trying to get upstairs, and they finally work their way upstairs. And remember, there's a big gap in the stairs. And they just start watching these zombies come and fall in the basement, get up, fall in the basement. And they're just someone standing in guard waiting there. And he sees this one zombie kind of just stopped while other zombies are walking by him, falling in the hole. And he looking at the hole and then looks at him. And he realizes, oh, son of a gun. That guy, he's using thought process. And he gets his gun out. When he lays his gun, the guy's gone. That freaked me out. I was like, whoa, now you're on a totally different level.
That's one of those things in zombie storylines that I am a sucker for, because it doesn't happen too much either. But anytime it's like, they're not mindless.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, and especially just like realizing that it's been standing there staring the whole time, where you've been like, oh, look at the dumb zombie. Oh.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and he explains it really well like that. He explains the whole where they're walking by and different things like that. So it's really good. It's cool.
Yeah. It also has a very fun... every book, I think, he has like a little post story.
Oh.
Yeah, and this one, it was about talking about the Canadian incident.
Oh,
the incident
yes.
at the Canadian border. Which was, I was just like, this is fun. Like, it felt like, it's kind of like end credits in a book, but it is basically like, here's a fun little story. Sometimes they get like kind of dark and emotional and stuff.
Yeah.
But, it was like, here's a little fun excerpt. Let me explain to you the Canadian. I was smiling. I was like, I believe that Michael Talbot did that. And he, like, the way it's like presented, where it's like, let me start this off. I'm going to tell you what the news reported, and I'm going to tell you what actually happened.
And what's crazy is I think all of us know a Joker character like that in our life. All of us have a friend or somebody that, dude, no matter what they do, and they're never thinking, they're doing whatever they want to do, and they have the best luck in the world, and you're like, really?
Mm-hmm. We've all got a little Mr. T in our lives.
A little one?
Yeah, I do.
Better pity the fool. Oh, not that Mr. T. But anyway. No, but it's really cool. Now, your whole thing with Tommy just keeps on, expanding. I think even before the end of the movie, he ends up a critical battle part with a bow. And it's just crazy.
They just walked straight through it, and he's like, Tommy's gonna die. He doesn't realize what's happening, and he just walks through like all this stuff happening, like arrows like flying.
And you could see that. I saw that in my movie mind.
Yeah, that's a good term for it. That's what we'll call it now.
I saw it in my movie mind, and I'm like, wow. Yeah.
And he's like the zombie like gets like hit with a crossbow right while Tommy like walks past.
Yeah, it's like crazy. So in the end, we're not in the end yet, but I can't speak enough. I love zombie books. I love this character. I think I would have loved it the same even if I heard it first. Because
I think he's more enjoyable in this.
Yeah.
Because the issues I have in Like and Fallout aren't really in this.
And the Like and Fallout, he did a really good job at transferring that pain.
And that's especially why I love the narrator, because like
Yeah.
him combined with like
Yeah.
that, it really does. Every time it gets somber, I'm like, I'm there.
Now
and I
this is
believe
part of a 3-book series, right?
it. So yeah, there's the zombie trilogy. The Lycan series is 4 books, and then the next one is called Demon Fallout.
Oh.
And I have no idea what happens, but we know what happened at the end of one Lycan Fallout. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
let's see where that goes, because this is, I mean, it's like I do like it's like the same character throughout all these, and now I know
Yeah.
that it's pretty believable that he does all these things.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, like even in Fallout, I was like, really? Well, who's this guy? But like I said, you understand a lot of stuff. But I highly recommend this book. I mean, to me, if I was gonna rate it, I would probably rate it out of 5 headshots.
I'll give it 4 out of 5 because I do feel it does get a little by the numbers in the middle.
I could see that.
I'll give it 4 out of 5 Pop-Tarts.
Oh, I like that.
Served you on that one.
You did serve me on that one. You're like Tommy, straight up Tommy. So we definitely, are we good?
That's about it.
So you guys definitely, because we're kind of doing these things kind of in groups and stuff, some of the books will actually complement the other books. So it kind of, I think, gives you an opportunity that you might not even know about Lycan Fallout and how this book is connected to Lycan Fallout. Not just because it was the writer or the narrator, but some of the deeper things that link these books together. And not just this series, but other series. So if you guys are interested, definitely take a look and listen, like, and
Subscribe, comment. Literally anything, your favorite kind of zombie.
Yep.
And we finally have our own Discord, which will be in the description below.
Yes. Yeah, so if you like a zombie, you are a zombie, you like zombies
In your head.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Yeah. Definitely. We enjoyed doing this for you guys, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
We don't have anything, right?
Yeah. It was like
I don't want
zombies.
to say eat you later. That's not good.
Pick your brain, eat your brain.
Pick your brain, eat your brain.
You can eat. You can pick your brain. You can eat brain. You can pick your friend, but you can't eat your friend's brain.
I like that.
So
you can pick your friends, but you can't eat your friend's brain.
And
that's a wrap.